So I'd love to tell you a little bit about who I am. And my name is Heidi Ann Mesmer, and I am a faculty member and a researcher. I have been a faculty member and a researcher since 1999 when I graduated from my doctoral program. Actually, in that doctoral program is when I really became interested in text with higher levels of decodability or decodable text, and have been really focused on beginning reading materials since that time. Prior to getting my doctoral degree, I was a classroom teacher. I spent a lot of time in schools with kids and teachers, running clinics, watching kids and teachers work together, written books for teachers, obviously write research articles and specifically on text. So this idea of high quality materials for beginning readers is really the driving force in my research. It's something that I am passionate about and have been for, over 20 years. Decodables are important in the classroom because they are a place where children can take the phonics instruction that they've learned and apply it in a real reading experience. And so they're part of just a basic, high quality, systematic, and explicit phonics program. They're also important because they give children a place to really experience the joy, the authentic joy that happens when they are decoding a word themselves for the very first time. We find that when texts are aligned, so in other words, when children have phonics instruction and then they have a decodable text that they can then read those words in, they do a whole lot better. So I first became really interested in decodables during my doctoral program, and my experience actually illustrates, I think, why decodables are important, and it illustrates why teachers really need them and want them. I was working with a second grade student who was really having a hard time and had already gotten a lot of extra instruction in first grade, but then wasn't doing so well in second grade. So during my doctoral program, I was working with this child, and I started to realize, oh my gosh, I'm asking this child to read some patterns like the short A sound. So we might do a lesson on at and ag and add, and read words like had and lad and grab, etc. And then I realized that what I was doing was giving this child a book, and in the book there might be one word. For example, maybe there would be the word cat, but there'd be all these other words in there that I had not equipped that child to decode. So they might come across a word like hair, oh my gosh, or enough. Hair is an R-controlled vowel, and I hadn't taught it. And so I was, during this period of time that I was working with this young child, I realized, she's really not using any of phonics instruction that I'm giving her. She's not applying it. And then I had kind of this light bulb moment, and I realized there wasn't any way for her to apply it because the words in text did not match what I was teaching. So fundamentally, the decodable text allows a teacher to teach phonics and then gives that teacher a tool so that when the child goes to read, the words that they have been taught to read will show up in that book, and they will be able to apply what they've learned in their phonics lesson in an actual book. There's a transfer or a generalizability that takes place when you're using a decodable text. I love Just Right Readers decodables for 4 reasons. The first reason is that they follow all the basics of what we know about a high quality decodable text. And I've been doing this for about 20 or so years. And by that I mean, the text itself is going to give a very clear focus on a specific letter sound pattern. So this book is The Gum Hut. And when a teacher picks this up, they flip it over to the back, and right here on the back, it's going to immediately tell you that this is a book that is focusing on the short U in a CVC pattern. And what they can do is get more information. They open it up to the inside here. And in the inside, they're going to see the decodable words right up there. And you can see there's bus and fun. They'll see all of those short U words and also the high frequency words that are in this book, because highly decodable text will have some high frequency words that are repeated. So that really helps a teacher know exactly what's in the book. It makes it very useful and easy to identify the pattern that you want to teach. The second thing that I really like is that there's a color-coded scope and sequence. So a scope and sequence is a feature of systematic and explicit phonics, and it's simply that you know the content that you're going to be teaching and you know the sequence in which you're going to teach it. The beauty of Just Right Readers Decodables is that the scope and sequence is color-coded. And so there's a color that goes, for example, with short vowels in the CVC pattern. And what this does is it helps the classroom teacher to immediately know what the pattern or the overall focus in the book is going to be. This is useful, for example, if you're in a classroom and you've asked kids to go find a book to read and you look across the classroom and JC is in a green book and you know the green books intersect with a certain pattern that you have not taught, and you can immediately say, oh, hey, JC, grab an orange book, because you know that that's going to fit. So that color-coded scope and sequence is very useful. So the third thing that I really like is the design of the book. And what you can see here is that the print is on the left-hand side here, and it's on a clean field. There's nothing else there. The only thing that you can do is look at the print and read it. There's nothing to interfere with. There's no mixed message about what you're supposed to be doing. You should be decoding the words. But then on the other side, you have that beautiful picture to delight and engage you and keep you interested in reading and wanting to read. The final thing that I really, really like is these videos. So on the back of every book is a little QR code that's going to send the family to a video. The videos are just short videos that show children how to decode the target sound, and they give the family a little bit of information about what the entire focus of the book is. So if this one comes home, for example, the gum hut, there's nothing really that a parent or non-educator would know exactly what we're supposed to do here. But if they scan that QR code, they'll know, okay, the whole point here is that sound. So I'm going to reinforce that when my child's reading. So the beautiful thing as well about these QR codes is that they will give you a Spanish video as well. So now we're reaching out to so many more children because we know that many children are Spanish speaking and yet they are learning to read in English. And so that supports families who are learning English themselves or who are helping their children do that. Just Right Readers Decodables align with research in several ways. The first thing that we need to remember is that in order for kids to become really skilled readers, they need to be able to get a lot of words into what we would call an automatic sight word store. And those are words that they read automatically without having to work really hard. The tricky thing is that the way that those kinds of words get into automatic sight word store is when kids actually decode it. So they have to do something called orthographically mapping, and that simply means they look at the letter, they remember the sound, they blend the word together over and over and over again with lots of practice. And that's where a highly decodable text can really, really help them. So Just Right Readers Decodables have that lesson to text match, have those decodable words so that children can practice that orthographic mapping. From the research, we know that when children have a diet of high-quality decodable texts, they will tend to read more accurately because they can. They're given an opportunity to do that. They'll also be a little bit more fluent. They'll use the letter sounds that they've learned in a lesson as they're reading. In other words, they'll transfer their knowledge. They'll generalize it to actual reading. There are some studies that have looked at kids and what they do after a long period of time in a decodable. And what we know is when children have a steady diet of highly decodable text at a specific developmental stage, then they have this robust and strong ability to decode, and not just to decode things that they've seen before, but to decode things that they have not seen before. So they're very powerful and independent readers. They also tend to retain their skills a little bit longer. So there's just no power, there's nothing more powerful than practicing in an engaging text to kind of set children off on the right path to getting to a point where they're really automatic and fluent readers. I love the inclusion of the videos at the back of the books for families to use. Phonics and reading instruction can actually be a little bit complicated, and many parents don't really know how that all works. So the beauty of the videos is that they come home and they illustrate precisely what letter sound pattern the real focus is. They demonstrate the sound for the parents so they know what the children are being taught, and that allows the parents to emphasize that as they're helping their children. So if a child brings home The Gum Hut, for example, and the parent has flipped over that book and looked at that video, and the child begins to need a little bit more support when they come to a word like gum, the parent is going to know, okay, the hard part here is that and they could prompt, oh, remember? Gum, gum. And so they know what the purpose is and what the instruction is, and they've been given a little bit of an inside scoop to empower them to help their child. Another element of Just Right Readers decodables that I really love is the actual stories and the illustrations and the themes that are in the books. The stories themselves are actually very lively and engaging, and even a little bit funny. There's a title that when I got the packet I read called Zen Ben, which I thought was really, really cute. And then there's this wonderful title called Abs, and in the story you see these superheroes with sculpted abs, and then there's a dad who comes in with the abs. And I loved abs because it's an opportunity for children to blend together a two-phoneme word, and honestly you don't see that a lot in highly decodables. But then the story itself, they had built this cute, clever story around that, and so I just love that there was kind of a sense of humor in the stories themselves. In addition, I think that there was a lot of culturally relevant content. The characters themselves represent all the different children that we're going to see in our classrooms. There's an adorable little story called Kayla Skates. There's one called King is the Man, which I really loved. So I just love that we're making highly decodable text really accessible to kids and really interesting and engaging to them. So Just Right Reader Decodables collection has over 380, approaching 400 books. And I have to tell you, that kind of blows me away. There just really aren't a lot of collections out there that have that many books for kids to practice. My experience has been that usually you might have one or two books in a certain short vowel pattern, or maybe 3 or 4, but the amount of practice that kids are given in these engaging books is really unique and special. So I would use Just Right Readers decodables in the classroom in several ways. First of all, I would make sure that I was coordinating the books with my phonics lessons. For example, if I was teaching a phonics lesson where I was teaching the short U, I'd have children practice decoding words with short U. I'd have them do a little phonemic awareness with short U. I might even have them spell some words with the short U. And then I would bring in the Just Right Readers Decodables at the end as a way to practice the phonics instruction that they have just gotten. This is really exciting to young children because it shows them that what they're learning can be applied in a real book. And reading a real book, and by that I mean really decoding the words yourself, is actually a milestone of childhood. It is something that children will look back and point to and say, wow, I was able to do that. And I think Just Right Readers Decodables really do help facilitate that instructional milestone and that wonderful milestone in a child's life. Other ways that I might use them, I might make sure that the texts get reread each week so that there's a review structure in place. Another wonderful thing you can do with Just Right Readers Decodables, you can ask kids to do what are called word hunts or word finds. So if they've been working on a pattern for a couple of days, you can ask them to go into books and to find and list words that they have read and that they know that fit a certain pattern. One of the things that I love about Just Right Reader is the take-home decodables. Now, I have not seen this kind of thing with take-home decodables ever. Usually, take-home decodables are kind of something that has been copied off on the copy machine and goes home. But Just Right Reader has this packet, and it's like this. It's almost like a little present that's all wrapped up in this little bag. And you can see that I've opened mine kind of nicely, but that's not how it is with kids. When the kids get it, they actually rip it open like it's a present. So I love this dynamic of making reading like a gift and making decodables a gift, right? Something that you can do. And the kids then open the packet and there's a group of books. And this is another really interesting and innovative element here. It's not just one little guy that goes home, it's a whole group of books that go home. And so we know that there's lots of practice that is going on. We're really setting up kids to do a lot of practice at home, and we're motivating them to do it just by simply presenting it in a delightful, engaging, and child-friendly way. The other thing about the take-home decodables is that they're all going to be matched exactly to the child's needs. So we know that if you're bringing home a book, it's a book you can read, right? And that's not always the case. Children get a lot of books in lots of different ways from classrooms and schools, and parents don't always know if the child can actually read that book. But that is not the case with Just Right Reader. So they're going to have a collection of books that are going to go home with them, and they're going to have 10 or so books, 10 to 12 books, and then that's going to go in 9-10 rounds. So what this means is that kids are going to get books that are specifically matched to their skills for about 120 books during the entire year. And so the thing to remember is that this packet of books that has been matched to the child is going to go home. But then, as the child becomes more skilled and is ready for the next level, another whole packet of texts is going to go home that are harder and more challenging. And they're going to have opportunities to practice the next skill. And then there's going to be another round of texts. And so the beautiful thing about Just Right Readers Decodables Take Home is that you're going to get lots of practice matched to your level as you advance throughout the year. And that is really going to make kids strong. So the other thing that I would say as well is that this is something that can be dropped into any school using any program because it reflects what we know about high quality phonics and scope and sequences, and it's exactly what anybody who's doing high quality phonics is going to be using. So you can add this to something else that you're doing in order to amplify or to boost the practice that kids are going to get. The other thing that I'd really want school leaders to understand here is the reason that Just Right Reader has developed such a wonderful collection of texts. So, of course, they have developed some innovations that I have not seen, like the videos to support parents. They have a huge volume of text so that kids get a lot of practice. They have the take-home decodables that are wrapped almost like a present for children, matched to the child's assessment data. They have Spanish language. All of these things, the reason that they have come about is because this is a group of people who really care about children learning to read well. And so they have continued to push the envelope in terms of improvement and innovation because the bottom line is they want children to be able to be successful and literate. And they share the passion in that regard. And so I think that in my experience is really driving this pattern of continual improvement and these wonderful texts for young children.